Everyone will celebrate the new Luna tonight, while the true mate of the Alpha King remains forgotten beneath the castle. The words were never spoken aloud, but they would become the truth that changed the fate of Silver Moon Kingdom forever. On the night when the entire kingdom gathered beneath thousands of golden lights, Amelia Carter sat alone in a cold stone room beneath the royal palace. She could hear the distant sound of music above her, the laughter of nobles, and the cheers of people celebrating a new beginning. They were honoring the woman who would soon stand beside the Alpha King. They were welcoming the Luna everyone believed was chosen by destiny. But no one remembered Amelia. No one knew the quiet Omega healer was only a few floors beneath them, waiting in silence. Amelia had learned a long time ago not to expect kindness from people who had already decided her worth. She was born an Omega in a world where strength was admired and gentleness was often ignored. Her healing abilities were considered small compared to other gifted healers. She could ease pain, restore energy, and bring comfort to those who needed it, but she had never displayed the kind of power that made others take notice. Because of that, many believed she was ordinary. Some even believed she was a burden. Yet Amelia continued helping others whenever she could. She never asked for praise. She never wanted attention. She simply believed that every person deserved compassion, even when compassion was not given back to her. Above the palace, Alpha King Adrian Blackthorn stood before the gathered kingdom. He was respected across the lands as a powerful ruler, a leader who carried generations of responsibility on his shoulders. Everyone waited for the moment when he would announce his Luna. And when he placed the royal symbol before Victoria Hayes, the crowd erupted in celebration. Victoria was admired by many. She came from a respected family, carried herself with confidence, and seemed like the perfect choice for the future of Silver Moon Kingdom. Adrian believed choosing her was the right decision. It was a decision based on duty, tradition, and what everyone expected from him. He never imagined that the person destiny had truly chosen was someone hidden away from the celebration. Beneath the castle, Amelia closed her eyes and listened to the voices above. She did not feel anger. She did not feel the need for revenge. She only wondered if the world would ever see people like her as more than their weaknesses. Then something unexpected happened. The ancient halls of the palace became still. Adrian, standing among the celebration, suddenly noticed something he had never felt before. A scent unlike anything he knew reached him from somewhere inside the castle. It was gentle, familiar, and impossible to ignore. For a moment, the Alpha King forgot the ceremony around him. He looked toward the old stone corridors beneath the palace, as if something unseen was calling him there. The feeling was not one of curiosity alone. It was something deeper, something ancient, something that made him question everything he believed about destiny. While everyone celebrated the Luna he had chosen, Adrian Blackthorn took his first step toward the truth hidden below. And in that forgotten room beneath the castle, Amelia Carter had no idea that the Alpha King had finally sensed the existence of the Omega everyone else had overlooked. The celebration continued throughout Silver Moon Kingdom, but deep beneath the palace, Amelia Carter remained unaware that her life was about to change. She sat quietly in the small room where she had been left, listening to the distant sounds of happiness above her. For years, Amelia had learned how to disappear when others wanted her forgotten. She knew how to stay silent when people judged her. She knew how to keep helping even when no one thanked her. But she never expected the one person everyone believed could never notice her would soon search for her. Above the castle halls, Alpha King Adrian Blackthorn struggled to understand the strange feeling that had interrupted his ceremony. The moment he sensed that unfamiliar scent, something inside him told him that ignoring it was impossible. It was not simply curiosity. It felt like a forgotten memory awakening after years of silence. Adrian had spent his entire life preparing to become the perfect ruler. Every decision was measured by tradition, responsibility, and the expectations of the kingdom. Choosing Victoria as his Luna had been logical. She represented everything the court believed a future Luna should be. Yet the feeling that pulled his attention toward the hidden parts of the palace did not feel logical. Felt like destiny. Leaving the celebration behind, Adrian walked through the older corridors of the castle. The further he went, the quieter the palace became. The golden lights and joyful voices faded until only the sound of his own footsteps remained. He found himself standing before a forgotten doorway that few people visited anymore. When the door opened, he saw Amelia sitting inside. She immediately stood, surprised by the presence of the Alpha King. She lowered her gaze, expecting another reminder that she did not belong. "Why are you here, Your Majesty?" she asked softly. Adrian looked at her carefully. This was not the person he expected to find. He had imagined someone powerful, someone who would demand attention. Instead, he found a young woman who seemed more concerned about causing trouble than receiving recognition. "I sensed something in this part of the castle," Adrian replied. Amelia looked confused. Something? She had no idea what he meant. Adrian noticed the way she carried herself. There was no bitterness in her expression. No anger toward the people who had ignored her. Only quiet patience. Surprised him. Most people who suffered unfair treatment carried their pain openly. Amelia seemed to carry hers with dignity. "How long have you been here?" Adrian asked. Amelia hesitated. "Long enough." Her answer was simple, but it carried a sadness she did not explain. Adrian felt something shift inside him. For the first time that night, he questioned the choices that had brought him there. How could an entire palace celebrate a future Luna, while someone like Amelia remained unseen beneath their feet? Before he could ask more questions, Amelia noticed the royal symbol on his clothing. She understood what was happening above. "Congratulations on your Luna ceremony," she said quietly. Adrian froze for a moment. He expected jealousy. He expected disappointment. Instead, Amelia offered him kindness. That small gesture affected him more than he expected. She had every reason to resent him, yet she showed no hatred. As Adrian returned to the upper halls later that night, one thought remained impossible to ignore. The Omega he had just discovered was unlike anyone he had ever known. And the scent that led him to her was not a mistake. It was a mystery that the Alpha King could no longer pretend did not exist. The morning after the Luna ceremony arrived with a feeling of uncertainty throughout Silver Moon Kingdom. Everyone expected the Alpha King to continue celebrating his chosen Luna. But Adrian Blackthorne found himself thinking about the Omega hidden beneath the castle. He could not understand why a single encounter had affected him so deeply. Amelia Carter had not asked for his attention. She had not tried to impress him. She had not even questioned why she had been forgotten. Yet somehow her quiet strength stayed in his mind. Adrian returned to the old corridor beneath the palace, hoping to find answers. When he opened the forgotten door again, he found Amelia carefully organizing the small room where she had been kept. She looked surprised to see him once more. "Your Majesty, is something wrong?" she asked. Adrian shook his head. "No. I wanted to speak with you." Amelia studied his expression, unsure why the Alpha King would want a conversation with someone like her. In her experience, powerful people rarely searched for those who had been ignored. They usually only noticed those who could benefit them. Adrian asked about her life, her healing ability, and how long she had been living away from the attention of the palace. Amelia answered honestly but without bitterness. She explained that she had always been a healer, even when others considered her gift too ordinary. She helped villagers, cared for families, and offered comfort whenever someone needed it. "I never wanted to be important," Amelia said quietly. "I only wanted to be useful." Those words stayed with Adrian. He had spent years surrounded by people who wanted influence, status, and recognition. Amelia was the first person he met who seemed to have none of those desires. She simply wanted to help. As they spoke, Adrian noticed something unusual. The closer he was to Amelia, the stronger the mysterious connection became. The scent that had drawn him to the basement was not just a passing feeling. It felt familiar, almost as if some forgotten part of him already knew her. But Adrian forced himself to remain careful. He was still the Alpha King. He had announced Victoria as his Luna, and the entire kingdom had witnessed that choice. He could not ignore the responsibility that came with his position. Amelia noticed his hesitation. "You should return to your celebration," she said gently. "The kingdom is waiting for you." Adrian looked at her with surprise. She was not asking him to stay. She was not trying to change his decision. She was simply reminding him of his duty. That made him question everything even more. Later that day, Adrian met with the royal advisors. They discussed the Luna ceremony and the future of the kingdom, but Adrian found himself asking questions he had never considered before. Why had no one told him about Amelia? Why had a healer with such kindness been forgotten beneath his own palace? The advisors gave simple explanations. They said Amelia was only an Omega with a minor healing ability. They said she had no important family name and no place in royal matters. But Adrian remembered the way Amelia looked at him. He remembered the kindness in her voice. He remembered that she showed respect even when she had every reason not to. For the first time, the Alpha King wondered if the kingdom had been wrong about her. And as the mysterious bond between them continued growing stronger, Adrian began to realize that the greatest secret in Silvermoon was not hidden in ancient records or royal chambers. It was hidden in the heart of the Omega everyone had chosen to overlook. The days that followed brought a quiet change to Silvermoon Kingdom. Nothing had been officially announced, yet something about the palace felt different. The Alpha King, who once moved with complete certainty, now carried questions he could not ignore. Adrian Blackthorne had always believed that a ruler's greatest responsibility was making decisions without hesitation. But after meeting Amelia Carter, he began wondering if confidence without understanding could lead a king in the wrong direction. Meanwhile, Amelia continued living beneath the palace, unaware of how much attention she had gained. She did not believe her situation mattered enough for anyone to change. She had spent too long being overlooked to suddenly expect the world to see her differently. Her only concern was continuing to help those who needed her. When a palace servant quietly came to her room asking for help with a small injury, Amelia immediately offered her healing ability. She did not ask why the servant came to her instead of another healer. She did not ask if anyone would recognize her kindness. She simply helped. Adrian happened to witness the moment from the hallway. He saw how carefully Amelia treated someone who had no power or status. He saw the patience in her actions and the gentle way she spoke. It reminded him of something he had forgotten. A person's worth was not measured by their title. Later, Adrian asked the royal historians to search through old records regarding Omegas with rare healing abilities. At first, the request surprised them. For generations, the kingdom had focused on warriors, leaders, and noble families. Few had taken the time to study healers who lived quietly among the people. After several days of searching, the historians discovered references to an ancient lineage of healers connected to the first alpha rulers of Silvermoon. The records described a rare gift that appeared only during times when the kingdom lost sight of its true values. The healer was not chosen because of status or family name. The healer was chosen because of compassion. Adrian read the words carefully, feeling a growing connection between the ancient writings and the Omega hidden beneath his own castle. He returned to Amelia with the information, but he chose his words carefully. He did not want to give her false hope or make promises he could not keep. "Have you ever heard stories about your family's healing ability?" he asked. Amelia shook her head. "My family always told me it was nothing special." Adrian looked at her thoughtfully. Perhaps they were wrong. Amelia lowered her eyes. She had heard similar words before, but they had rarely been spoken with sincerity. Most people told her she was special only when they wanted something from her. Adrian noticed her hesitation. "You do not believe me," he said. Amelia answered honestly, "I want to believe you, but it is difficult when you spend your entire life being told that you are not enough." Her words affected him more than she realized. The Alpha King understood responsibility. He understood pressure. But he had never considered what it felt like to be invisible. That night, Adrian stood alone in the royal chamber, looking at the symbol of the Luna ceremony he had announced. For the first time, he questioned whether he had chosen based on truth or simply on expectation. And beneath the castle, Amelia quietly held on to the small hope that someone finally saw her as more than an overlooked Omega. Neither of them knew that the ancient records had revealed only the beginning of a secret that would challenge everything the kingdom believed about destiny. The truth hidden within the ancient records began changing the way Adrian Blackthorne viewed everything around him. For years, he had trusted the traditions of Silvermoon Kingdom without question. He believed that every ceremony, every royal decision, and every expectation existed for a reason. But now he wondered if some traditions had remained only because no one had been brave enough to question them. Deep beneath the palace, Amelia Carter continued her quiet life. She still woke each morning and looked for ways to help others. She still believed that kindness did not require recognition. But after Adrian began visiting her, something inside her slowly changed. She no longer felt completely invisible. Someone had finally asked about her dreams, her past, and the person she was beyond being an Omega healer. One afternoon, Adrian invited Amelia to visit the royal archives. He wanted her to see the records connected to her family and the ancient healing lineage. Amelia hesitated before accepting. She had spent years avoiding attention because attention usually brought disappointment. But something about Adrian's sincerity made her believe that perhaps the truth was worth discovering. Inside the archives, they found a collection of writings that had been forgotten for generations. The pages described a healer whose gift was connected to the balance between the Alpha King and the people of the kingdom. The healer was not meant to stand behind the throne as someone powerless. The healer was meant to stand beside the ruler as a reminder that leadership required both strength and compassion. Amelia read the words silently, feeling a strange emotion she could not explain. She had always believed her purpose was simply helping individuals one at a time. She never imagined her existence could be connected to something so important. Adrian watched her reaction carefully. "Does this change how you see yourself?" he asked. Amelia thought for a moment. "I do not know. I spent so long believing I was ordinary that it is difficult to imagine being anything else." Adrian understood that feeling. He had spent his own life being told what a king should be. In many ways, they were more alike than either of them realized. Both had been shaped by expectations placed upon them before they were old enough to choose their own paths. However, outside the archives, rumors began spreading through the palace. Some nobles questioned why the Alpha King was spending time with an Omega who had no noble background. Others believed Amelia was attempting to gain influence through the ancient records. Amelia heard the whispers and immediately stepped back. She did not want to create conflict within the kingdom. "Perhaps I should leave the palace," she told Adrian quietly. "I never wanted to become the reason people are divided." Adrian looked at her with surprise. "You think leaving will solve the problem?" Amelia lowered her gaze. "Maybe it would make things easier." Adrian shook his head. "The problem was never you. The problem was that people refused to see you." His words reached her deeply. For the first time, someone powerful was not asking her to prove her worth. He was telling her that she already had it. But Adrian knew the situation could not remain hidden forever. The connection between them was becoming impossible to ignore, and the truth about Amelia's identity would eventually reach the entire kingdom. Meanwhile, Victoria Hayes, the Luna chosen during the ceremony, began noticing the changes around the Alpha King. She realized Adrian was no longer looking toward the future they had planned. He was searching for something he had never expected to find. And as the kingdom moved closer to discovering the truth, Adrian faced the most difficult decision of his life. He would have to choose between protecting an old tradition or accepting a destiny that had been waiting beneath the castle all along. The days after the discovery of the ancient records brought a new feeling throughout Silver Moon Kingdom. The palace was filled with questions, conversations, and uncertainty. Everyone could sense that something important was changing, even though no official announcement had been made. At the center of that change was Amelia Carter, the Omega healer who had spent most of her life believing she would never be noticed. Amelia continued learning about her family's forgotten history, but she struggled with one thought more than anything else. She did not want to be valued only because of an ancient connection or a mysterious destiny. She wanted people to understand the person she had always been. Adrian Blackthorne understood that feeling more than anyone. As the Alpha King, he had spent years being seen as a symbol instead of a person. The kingdom saw his crown, his authority, and his responsibilities, but few ever considered what existed behind those expectations. With Amelia, he felt something different. She did not treat him like a perfect ruler. She treated him like someone who also carried burdens. One morning, Adrian asked Amelia to join him in the royal gardens. The place had always been one of his favorite areas of the palace because it was away from the formal atmosphere of the throne room. There, he could speak honestly without the weight of the crown affecting every word. "You still believe you do not belong here," Adrian said. Amelia looked at the flowers surrounding them. "I have spent my entire life being reminded that I was different." Adrian listened carefully. Different does not mean less. Those simple words stayed with her. Amelia had heard many people describe her as weak, but Adrian was the first person who saw her differences as something meaningful. However, the peace they found in the garden did not last forever. The royal council requested an official meeting to discuss Amelia's place within the kingdom. Many advisors were respectful, but their concerns were clear. They believed the ancient healer should be carefully controlled because they feared change. Amelia understood their worries. She knew that a kingdom built on tradition would not transform overnight. But she also knew that hiding the truth would only continue the same mistake that had caused her to be forgotten. During the meeting, one advisor asked Amelia what she wanted from the kingdom. The question surprised everyone because most expected her to ask for recognition or status. Instead, she answered calmly, "I want people to believe that every person has value before they prove what they can do." The room became quiet. Even those who doubted her could not ignore the sincerity behind her words. Adrian watched her with admiration. She had the opportunity to demand respect, yet she chose to offer understanding. Later that evening, Adrian spoke privately with his advisors. He knew the kingdom was approaching a turning point. Choosing Victoria as Luna had been a decision based on what everyone expected, but discovering Amelia had forced him to question whether expectations were always the same as truth. Meanwhile, Victoria began preparing for a difficult conversation with Adrian. She could feel the distance growing between them, and she wanted to understand why. She had always believed their future was certain. Now she wondered if destiny had written a different path. Beneath the palace, the forgotten history of Silvermoon continued revealing its secrets. The ancient records contained one final message that had not yet been understood. It explained that when the true healer returned, the Alpha King would face a choice that would define not only his heart, but the future of the entire kingdom. The final message hidden within the ancient records began revealing its meaning, and Adrian Blackthorne realized the choice before him was not simply about a healer or a Luna. It was about the kind of king he wanted to become. For years, Adrian had believed that leadership meant following the path created by those before him. But Amelia Carter had shown him something he had forgotten. A true leader did not protect traditions just because they were old. A true leader protected the values those traditions were meant to represent. Amelia continued learning about the ancient healing lineage, but she remained unsure of her place in the kingdom. She could feel the attention surrounding her growing, and it made her uncomfortable. She had never wanted admiration. She had only wanted the chance to help people without being judged. Adrian noticed her uncertainty and invited her to accompany him during a visit to the outer villages of Silvermoon. He wanted the people to see the healer they had ignored for so long, but he also wanted Amelia to see something important. Her value had never depended on the opinion of the palace. When they arrived, many villagers recognized Amelia immediately. They remembered the Omega who had helped families when no one else came. They remembered the healer who offered kindness without asking for anything in return. The reaction surprised Amelia. She expected people to see her differently because of the ancient records, but instead they welcomed her because of the person she had always been. Adrian watched as the villagers surrounded her with gratitude. He realized the kingdom had spent years searching for a legendary figure, while overlooking someone who had already been serving them quietly. During their journey back to the palace, Adrian and Amelia spoke about the future. "You know you could ask for anything now," Adrian said. "The kingdom would listen." Amelia looked out at the passing landscape. "That is exactly what worries me. I do not want people to follow me because they are afraid of what I represent. I want them to understand why compassion matters." Adrian smiled softly. "That is why they need you." However, the peaceful moment was interrupted when the royal council delivered an urgent request. The ancient records had been reviewed by the historians, and they discovered a hidden part of the prophecy. The return of the healer was only the beginning. The prophecy stated that the Alpha King and the true healer would need to stand together to restore balance within the kingdom. The message created uncertainty among the advisors. Some feared that Adrian's connection with Amelia would change the future of Silvermoon. Others believed the prophecy confirmed what they had refused to see. Amelia was not a threat to the kingdom. She was part of its forgotten history. Later that night, Victoria Hayes requested a private conversation with Adrian. She no longer wanted to pretend that nothing had changed. She had noticed his concern for Amelia and understood that something deeper was happening. Adrian respected her honesty, but he also knew he could not continue living according to expectations alone. Meanwhile, Amelia stood alone in the palace garden, looking at the place where she had once believed she would never belong. She thought about everything that had happened since the night of the Luna ceremony. She had gone from being invisible to becoming someone the entire kingdom watched. But she remained the same person, the same healer, the same Omega who believed every life mattered. And as the ancient prophecy moved closer to becoming reality, Amelia and Adrian both realized that the greatest challenge was not discovering their destiny. It was finding the courage to accept it. The truth about destiny could no longer remain hidden within Silvermoon Kingdom. After years of following tradition without question, the palace finally faced the reality that the future of the kingdom could not be built on old expectations alone. Adrian Blackthorne knew the moment had come when he needed to make a decision, not as a man seeking approval, but as the Alpha King responsible for the people he protected. Amelia Carter remained cautious despite everything that had changed. She had gained respect from villagers, discovered the forgotten history of her family, and earned the attention of the entire kingdom, but a part of her still remembered the years when nobody believed she mattered. Adrian understood that healing those memories would take more than words. He needed to show Amelia that she was valued for who she was, not simply because of an ancient prophecy. Before making any announcement, Adrian asked Amelia to meet him in the royal garden once again, the same place where they had first spoken openly about their fears and hopes. "I need you to know something," Adrian said. "The kingdom may recognize your gift, but that is not why I respect you." Amelia looked at him quietly. "Then why?" Adrian answered honestly, "Because you remained kind when the world gave you every reason not to be." Those words reached Amelia in a way she did not expect. She had spent so many years believing she needed to prove that she deserved a place in the world. Adrian reminded her that her worth had existed long before anyone noticed it. Meanwhile, the royal council prepared for the official gathering where Adrian would address the kingdom. Everyone knew the announcement would change the future of Silvermoon. Some supported Amelia because they had witnessed her compassion firsthand. Others still struggled to accept that an Omega healer could stand at the center of royal destiny. But Amelia did not ask Adrian to choose her over others. She did not want power gained through conflict. She wanted a kingdom where people were respected before their abilities or titles were considered. Before the gathering began, Victoria Hayes approached Amelia. The conversation between them was not filled with anger or rivalry. Instead, it revealed two women who had both been placed into roles created by others. Victoria admitted that she had believed becoming Luna would secure her future, but she slowly realized that a title without genuine connection could never bring true happiness. Amelia listened with understanding. She knew what it felt like to be defined by something outside of herself. When Adrian finally stood before the kingdom, he did not speak about choosing between two women. He spoke about recognizing the truth that had been hidden for too long. He spoke about the healer who had protected others without expecting anything in return. He spoke about the importance of compassion, humility, and seeing people beyond their status. The kingdom listened in silence as the Alpha King admitted that true leadership required the courage to change. Deep beneath the palace where Amelia had once been forgotten, a new chapter of Silvermoon's history began. The Omega who had been ignored became the symbol of hope the kingdom never knew it needed. And Adrian understood that destiny had not brought him someone to complete his power. It had brought him someone who reminded him what power was meant to serve. The days that followed became a new beginning for Silvermoon Kingdom. The announcement from the Alpha King changed more than the future of the royal court. It changed the way people looked at those who had been forgotten for too long. Amelia Carter, the Omega healer once hidden beneath the palace, was no longer seen as someone without importance. She was finally recognized for the person she had always been. Not because of an ancient prophecy, not because of her connection to the Alpha King, but because of the kindness, patience, and courage she had shown when nobody was watching. Adrian Blackthorne noticed the greatest change was not in the opinions of others. It was in Amelia herself. For the first time, she walked through the palace halls without lowering her gaze. She no longer felt like a guest in a place where she had always belonged. The same rooms that once represented loneliness now became places where new memories were created. Adrian often reminded her that she did not need to become someone different to stand beside him. He valued the healer who had spent years helping others quietly. He respected the Omega who had remained gentle in a world that had not always been gentle with her. As the kingdom prepared for a new era, Amelia worked with healers and villagers across Silvermoon to improve care for everyone. She created programs where people with different backgrounds could receive support without judgment. Her greatest wish was never to be above others. It was to make sure no one else felt invisible the way she once had. Adrian watched her bring people together and understood why destiny had led him to her. A crown could command attention, but it could not create trust. A title could create respect, but it could not create love. Amelia had earned both through the simple act of caring for others. One evening, Adrian returned with Amelia to the old room beneath the castle where they had first met. The place had been transformed. The cold walls no longer represented neglect. They had become a reminder of how far they had both come. "Do you remember when you thought you did not belong here?" Adrian asked. Amelia smiled softly. "I remember thinking nobody would ever notice me." Adrian looked around the room. "And now?" Amelia looked toward the palace above them, where the voices of the kingdom filled the halls. "Now I know being unseen does not mean being unimportant." Those words stayed with Adrian forever. The Alpha King had once believed his greatest duty was protecting a kingdom through strength alone. Amelia taught him that the strongest kingdoms were built through compassion, understanding, and unity. Together, they created a future where Omegas were no longer judged by old assumptions, and where every person had the chance to be recognized for their true worth. The ancient prophecy had not been about power. It had been about balance. It had been about two people discovering that destiny was not something that controlled their choices. It was something they chose to honor through their actions. And in the heart of Silvermoon Kingdom, the story of the forgotten Omega healer and the Alpha King became a reminder that the greatest transformations begin when someone finally chooses to see the person everyone else ignored.